Who's excited to elect Beto O'Rourke as next governor of the great state of Texas? Well, hey y'all, I'm Greg Casar, and I'm your next progressive member of Congress here representing the great city of San Antonio. And we are so proud to be joined by each and every one of you here today. We're also joined by great leaders here from Bexar County, like Senator Roland Gutierrez and Judge Chapa, and our next representative representing the South Side in the State House, Frank Ramirez, who you're about to hear from. And something so important that I want us to emphasize time and time again as we work on this campaign to elect Beto is that it is so clear. One thing I learned not when I was a city council member or running for Congress, but what I learned and saw clearly as a labor organizer is that the power in this state does not rest with the mega corporations or the far right officials they pay off. It rests with the working people of Texas and the people of San Antonio and the people in this room. Because y'all are going to see a lot on the news and hear about the polls and hear all this stuff. But the fact of the matter is that folks in power, the people that protect the status quo, they act like they represent what Texas is. But the fact of the matter is they don't represent Democrats, independents, or even Republicans at all. They represent their own greed and their own desire for political power. And nobody makes that more clear than Governor Greg Abbott. I mean, think about it for a second. During pandemics and winter storms, when people were suffering, losing their jobs and their homes, even losing their lives, he was supposed to be our first responder. And how did he respond? By banning books and banning abortion care and trying to blame the vulnerable for our problems, trying to turn us against one another. But we wouldn't let that happen, would we? The real heroes, the real Texans were the people that were going out and climbing up on icy light poles in the night to get the power back on. The nurses taking care of people in overflowing hospital rooms. Our teachers fighting to care for our kids. Folks like y'all that lent your hard-earned dollars to your neighbors so that they could pay the rent. This is Texas. This is who we are. We believe in lifting one another up, mourning each other's losses, leading with generous love, and fearlessly holding the powerful accountable. That's who we are. We believe in raising the starvation minimum wage from $7.25 at least to $15 an hour, don't y'all? We believe that in this pandemic, instead of a few people, a few billionaires making $2 trillion, that working people should have gotten a raise instead of a rent increase. That's what we believe. Isn't that what we believe, San Antonio? We believe that immigrant rights are human rights and that Black Lives Matter and the rights of our LGBTQ neighbors. That's what Beto O'Rourke believes. That's what Frank Ramirez believes. Isn't that what we believe here on the south side of San Antonio? And there's good news. There are deep roots in progressive movements here in San Antonio. And we should look to that history in this critical moment. Emma Tenayuca, a 23-year-old labor organizer, organized one of the most important strikes in American history here in San Antonio. 15,000 Mexican-American women walking off the job in the pecan sellers strike. They were gassed. They were beaten. They were told to go back to work. They wouldn't go back to work. They tried to put them in the jail. There wasn't room for 15,000 Mexican-American women in the jail. They fought until President FDR signed the first ever minimum wage into law. Workers' rights were born in Texas. Civil rights were born in Texas. We're going to bring them back, and we're going to bring them back when we elect Beto O'Rourke as our governor. What do y'all say? We are the majority. This is our home. And just like Emma Tenayuca nearly a century ago, it is our job here in San Antonio to build a long-term movement greater than any one elected official, greater than any one election cycle. We have to lift each other up and do the work. We can go to rallies, and then we have to go knock on doors, build unions, build our schools, and build that kind of a movement that is really who Texas truly is. And somebody that is going to be so key to that, because it's going to take each and every one of us to lead in this work is Frank Ramirez, who is running to unseat a horrible Republican incumbent down here on the south side of San Antonio. Because we're going to keep Bexar County blue, but we need to turn it really blue. We need to flip every seat, because every additional vote here is how we make Ken Paxton a thing of the past and bring Rochelle Garza in as our Attorney General. It's how we make Lujan a thing of the past and have Frank Ramirez's young leadership to bring back the progressive roots of this state. So I want to call up your next state representative down here fighting in the south side of San Antonio, Frank Ramirez.
I say this at every Bethel rally, and I'm going to say it again today. It feels damn good to be a Democrat today. And every day, and I'll tell you why. Because it feels good to be on the right side of history. It feels good to protect our children. When they go to school, guess what? We expect them to come back home every single day. And we need a state leadership that reflects that. And let's raise that minimum age of purchasing any type of weapon in the state of Texas from 18 to 21. Today's a good day, but it's also a solemn day, y'all. Today is the 5th anniversary of the shooting in Sutherland Springs. Far too often in our state's history have we seen these things transpire. And we know it's because we have inept leadership at the top. It's because we know that we continuously let these people rule when we have the power. So my urge to y'all today, my question is, are y'all willing to text 5, 10, 15 of y'all's friends and family members to ensure that we are seeing the changes necessary in this state that we all deserve? Like making sure our kids come back home safely from school. Like making sure our teachers get the reasonable wages and the reasonable salary increases that they deserve for doing the hard work day in and day out. Like keeping our lights on in the midst of whatever is happening outside, because the working class in this community, in the South Side, all around this state deserves that. I'm proud to be a product of the public education system down here in Harlandale ISD. I'm a McCollum grad. And I know in my heart of hearts that when we're talking to people at their doors, on the phone, through text, that we're not just reaching out to them to tell them to get out and vote. We're telling them our community is on the chopping block. Women in the state of Texas, the rights that they have earned and that they deserve, that we all deserve, access to reproductive health, is on the chopping block this upcoming session. And that's why my team and I, with the help of every single person here, we're going to defeat an extremist Republican who was handpicked by Greg Abbott, who has spent $1.2 million against a 28-year-old kid from the South Side. We're going to meet him at the ballot box. And at the end of the day on November 8th, myself, my good friend Greg, my good friend Bethel, we're all going to come out victorious, and it's going to be because of each and every one of you. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with y'all. Thank you, Tandem. Shout out to Sky and all the staff out there. It's an honor to be your Democratic nominee for House District 118. I'm Frank Ramirez. Thank you so much. I'm going to give it back to Greg, maybe? Who am I giving it to next? Sorry. Our state senator from San Antonio who has done a great job representing us, Roland Gutierrez.
Well, I want to thank you all for coming. You know, I live just down the road, so if you want to come to my house after, we'll have a nice big party. But I got to thank my buddy. You know, I've had an opportunity over the last several months to meet probably one of the coolest guys I know. Not because his name is Beto, but he's really cool. And he doesn't know this, but before you got here, you gave me the funnest thing that I'd have ever gotten to do. Is I just bought about $1,500 worth of T-shirts and started flying them out here, so that was a lot of fun. I think I pissed off a few folks, but we're gonna remedy that in a little bit. I got to tell you, this election is so important. Going to vote on Tuesday is so important. You need to get this phone out over the next 3 days, and you need to go down that list, and you need to call everybody you know and tell them to vote. Because everything is on the line. Everything. Our kids' safety's on the line. We need to make sure that little kids like Jaden have an opportunity to go to school and not have to worry about their own safety. We need to make sure that women can make the decisions alone with their doctors and don't have Republican white men telling them what to do with their bodies. We need to make sure that we can keep the lights on when it gets a little cold. Because I promise you, in North Dakota and in upstate New York and anywhere else it's cold, 200, 700 people don't die when it gets a little cold. But that did happen here. It sadly happened here, and it happened under Greg Abbott's watch. Let me tell you how about these elections and how hard they are for friends and family and everything else. And this election's also, it's not just about neglect, and what happened in Uvalde isn't a story of a madman. It is a story about neglect, but it's also a story about courage. And it's about this man that gave me the courage to stand up to a governor and tell him where to go, right? And tell him where to go. Because he didn't think twice about it, did he? He got up there and he said, "This is on you, Governor. These kids died on your watch, and it is absolutely your fault. And I promise you it is on Greg Abbott, because 5 massacres ago, he could have done something about it. He could have passed a little law. He could have said some 18-year-old kid, because the vast majority of these shootings are done by people younger than 21. He could have said kids are not going to have access to this type of weaponry. But he didn't do that. So you're damn right, what happened to these children is on his watch and is on Greg Abbott's fault. Absolutely. But on November 8th, we're going to elect a man, and I'm going to tell you all the BS. I got kids in the room, so I'm not going to say it. Well, I'll just say it. All the bullshit. I'm going to tell you. We keep hearing about polls. Oh, they're this much ahead and that much ahead. I want to tell you that's bullshit. And I'm going to tell you why it is. For some of us, we get this little app called Target Smart, and I lose sleep over it every night. I'm like, oh, shit, man, we got to get some more people voting. But you in here, you're going to get thousands voting, because when we're done, you're going to get on your phone, and you're going to make sure that those that haven't voted will go vote on Tuesday to create change, because change begins here right now in the state of Texas, in this city in San Antonio, right here in District 19. And let me explain to you what that Target Smart app says, because I know you're going to get on it a little bit. It says we're right there. It says that we're neck and neck with these people. And that's on people that have voted early, right? And it says, well, shit, it says they're a little ahead, right? But here's the deal. They're not that far ahead. They're not that far ahead. And it also says, in the state of Texas, there's 770,000 independent voters, and I promise you, this man's going to get 80% of those. He's going to get 80% of those. And it's why Greg Abbott right now is scared, and he's up in Fort Worth, and he's telling people to go vote because they're not voting. And they're not voting for a man who they know is full of shit. And they know they've had enough of. And you're also not hearing something new in this election. And this is something new, and I can't quantify it, but I promise you it's out there. I have a few Republican friends, I do. Just a handful. But I'll go to a birthday party for my kid or something, and I'll talk to some guy that I know is on the other side, and he says to me, "You know, Roland, I got to tell you, I'm never voting for these people again." I have heard that story by Republican people over and over and over again, because they too are tired of the bullshit. They too want change in our community. They too want to make sure that children can be safe in schools. They too want to make sure that their wives aren't beat up. They too want to make sure that they have the opportunities that every state in this nation has, and they too want to make sure that when it gets a little cold, the power stays on. So I want you to not just Give this man a great big round of applause. I want you to get out when we leave, and you're going to go through your phones, and you're going to drag those people out to vote on Tuesday. And you, like him, will have the courage to make sure that we elect the next governor of this great state, Beto O'Rourke.
Thank you, brother. Always so good. Always so good.
All right, San Antonio.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks to the good folks at Tandem for hosting us here. Please tip your server generously, okay? It's our best way of saying thank you today. Really makes me so happy to see so many of you out here today on this Saturday, coming together in the face of some historic challenges at the foot of the most historic opportunity this state has ever had. One that we are going to claim together by working our tails off over the next 4 days. And I know that because I joined many of you on a block walk that Frank Ramirez helped to organize earlier today with Greg Casar, where we went door to door just in this neighborhood right here, meeting people on their Saturday morning, their Saturday afternoon. Families who were gathering their kids to go out to birthday parties. They had their gifts wrapped. They had donuts on a plate so the kid could eat something before they got there and got more sugar in their system. And they would stop and they would talk to us and they would share with us what is on their mind and why they are going to vote on Tuesday. And as the senator said, they know that this is the election of our lifetimes, of their lifetimes, because all of our lives literally are on the ballot right now. And these young people that I had a chance to say hello to as you all were walking in, as we were walking in together, I met Arrow, who helped his parents vote yesterday during early voting. Hey, Arrow! And these other youngsters who are here, they know a couple of things about us, right? They know that they are too young to have a vote or a voice in this election, except through the actions that we take and the commitments that we make right now following the senator's directions to get after it and talk to everybody in our lives. They also know this: of all the calamities that have befallen this state over the last 8 years because of Greg Abbott, a grid that does not work still killed 700 of our fellow Texans in February of 21. And while they were dying and freezing in their homes, that guy ordered the price of electricity pegged at its highest allowable rate, not for minutes, not for hours, but for days. Gas soon started trading at 200 times what it had sold for the day before. Utilities went into bankruptcy. Others took billions of dollars on in debt. His buddies, the energy traders and the pipeline corporations, made $11 billion in profit while the people of this state were suffering. Ron Nirenberg has called it the largest transfer of wealth in Texas history. The kicker is all of us got left holding the bag. We're all paying higher utility bills now, $45 on average per ratepayer across the state of Texas more. You can call that the Abbott tax from now on, right? And that grid, no better prepared going into this next winter than it was in that winter right now. The most extreme abortion ban in America begins at conception. There's not an exception for rape. There's not an exception for incest. And I know from listening to you, who've shared your very personal and painful stories, there's really effectively not an exception for the life of the woman or the mother involved. You've told me about being on death's door and the doctor sending you back and said, come back to me when you're actually dying, and then I'm legally allowed to help try to save your life in the state of Texas. We now lead the nation in the number of school shootings. Gun violence, the leading cause of death for children and teenagers in the state of Texas right now. What does that say about us, right? Teachers who've already sacrificed the best years of their lives educating our kids, often working 2 or 3 jobs for the privilege of being there for our little kids, now have to worry about what they are going to do when an armed shooter comes into their classroom and threatens their kids. Do they literally sacrifice themselves, their bodies, their lives for those kids for whom they've already given so much? And then this, finally, our democracy, the right to vote, that which makes everything else possible in this extraordinary state and country. That is under attack in Texas more than it is anywhere else in the union today. Harder to cast a ballot, harder to register to vote, have your name on the rolls here than anywhere else in America. Against all of those challenges, though, are all of us. And back to these kids. Now, they may buy the argument that I'm making right now, that Senator Gutierrez, that Greg Casar, that Frank are making, that all of what I've just described is the fault of those who are in power today, these Republicans like Greg Abbott and the incumbent in this state house seat. But come November 9th, if we have failed to change those who are in power, it is now on all of us. And our kids are wise to this. They know that we can no longer blame other people when in this democracy, the power is with the people. It's a government of, by, and for the people. And it is completely insufficient to the task at hand to go out there and vote, and that's it. We've got to be able to do more. If this is the most voter-suppressed state in the union, and it is, then we all have to pitch in to reach those who are under attack right now, those who are the focus and the target of this intimidation. That means knocking on their doors and meeting them face to face, eyeball to eyeball, human to human, and giving them a reason to participate in this election. Of the millions of our fellow Texans who, though eligible to, did not cast a ballot in 2020, number one reason given when they're contacted by a pollster for not voting is that no one ever asked them to vote in the first place. I tell you, they are literally waiting for your knock on the door. They are literally waiting for your phone call right now. Rocio, who's over here to your right, and Grace, who's over here to your left, they have clipboards with open volunteer shifts for you to go knock on doors. Look, we've got 4 days, including today, left to us to get after it and win this election. It is going to be really tough. There's a reason that a Democrat last won this seat 32 years ago. It happens to be the best one of all time, Ann Richards. But they've used every instrument of power to try to keep us out of power. This is not going to come easy. We may have all of the right values and the right policies and the right people on our side, and I think we do, but we have to be able to put out more of an effort than we have seen so far if we're going to just be honest with one another, or we're going to get the exact same result that we've always gotten over the last 2 decades. In other words, if the same people and only the same people vote in this election as voted in the last election and in the election before, we're likely to get the same people in the same positions of power. If we change the electorate by bringing out those who we have yet to hear from, whose votes have yet to be counted, we will win this election. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is not on me. It's not on any of these candidates. It's not on the Democratic Party. It is on the people of Texas. That is where the power is in this state. And so I'm asking you to sign up with us to do this today. And then one step more on what Senator Gutierrez just said. There is an app called Reach. Reach allows you to check every contact in your phone against the voter file and see if they've voted yet. It's pretty amazing. And so if your mom and dad have already voted, they're already cleared. But if your sister and your oldest son have not yet voted, they're going to pop up in the app, and it will prompt you to text them and remind them that Tuesday is the last day to vote in this election. So here's how we get the Reach app. You're going to text the word REACH, spelled R-E-A-C-H, to 33339. That is REACH to 33339. You do that, and you look for the 2 Million Texans campaign. There's a lot of different campaigns you can join. Join the 2 Million Texans campaign. Senator Gutierrez is part of that. Senator Menendez, who I want to recognize, who just walked in. Talk about a champion for democracy in the room right now. His team is on that app. Greg Casar's team is on that app. Frank's team is on that app. Every statewide candidate is on that app. Between all of us who are potential users of this app, we know hundreds of thousands of net new voters who could be the margin of victory in this election. So one last time, text REACH to 33339 and look for the 2 Million Texans campaign. Listen, we do that, and we're going to meet the most important judgment of all, And that's Arrow's judgment and my 3 kids' judgment and your kids and grandkids and the generations that follow ours. They are watching us right now, somewhere from the distant future, to see how we will acquit ourselves against the greatest, most historic challenges that this state has ever faced. Were we hapless? Were we helpless? Were we hopeless? Or did we get after it and win this election? You all ready to do the work to make sure that we can tell them that we won? If we do that together, then we will make sure that in Texas, women make their own decisions about their own bodies, their own futures, and their own health care. We'll prioritize the lives of our kids over the interests of the NRA or the gun lobby or anybody else for that matter in the state of Texas. Those teachers that we've been talking about, paid enough not to work 2 or 3 jobs, just one, focusing on that child in front of them and drawing forth a lifelong love of learning. And for the retired teachers in the room who haven't seen a cost of living adjustment in 18 years, we want to make sure that you get one every single year going forward, right? We owe you that much. And for my younger friends in the room, what I hear from you and from your parents and from your teachers is that after 2 years of pandemic, 2 years of learning loss, 2 years of some pretty god-awful trauma, that classroom time is more valuable than ever. That chance to connect with your peers, with that teacher in front of you, that emotional support that many of you need after you lost your grandparents, your folks lost their jobs, your family lost their home. That teacher is part of the system keeping you alive right now. So let's make sure that we return some of that valuable classroom time to her by canceling the STAR test in the state of Texas so that we can focus on the most important things in front of us. ¿Somos de acuerdo? And then on this democracy, let us make sure that it works for all of us. Democrat, Republican, no me importa, right? Just as long as you have a free and fair opportunity to cast that ballot, your voice heard, your vote counted. In March of this year, 95-year-old World War II veteran. In other words, a guy who willingly put his life on the line for all of us in 1944 to fight fascism half a world away and defend democracy here at home, had his ballot by mail request, in the middle of a pandemic, mind you, rejected not once, but 3 times in the state of Texas. There is no one but no one among us who has more earned the right to vote in the state of Texas than that guy. But even he could not freely and fairly cast his ballot. So when we win, let us make sure it's easier to get on the rolls in the first place. Automatic voter registration when you turn 18 or naturalize as a citizen. Online voter registration, replacing these gerrymandered districts with citizen-led redistricting commissions that we work out right here at the bar at Tandem, maybe. And then we will replace together Confederate Heroes Day with Election Day as a state holiday in the state of Texas so you can take the day off work and actually cast that ballot. We're going to do common sense, bipartisan things that we find on the common ground before us. Expanding Medicaid, which will return $10 billion of our federal income taxes back to the state of Texas. Connect more people with care in the least insured state in America, whose largest provider of mental health care services right now is the county jail system. No matter how immoral or insufficient that kind of care is, that is how we define ourselves today until we fix this. Not only do we bring that money back, connect people with care, we create hundreds of thousands of jobs in the process and lower the property taxes of just about everybody here in this room. And speaking of lowering property taxes and having additional state resources, what if we stop spending $500 million a year locking up people for possession of a substance that's already legal in most of the rest of the country today? This is something that Senator Gutierrez actually campaigned on, seeking office to represent this community. We will, 1, legalize marijuana in the state of Texas. And 2, knowing that black and brown Texans disproportionately serve time for something that everyone in this state uses at an equal amount, which, judging by your response, is a lot. We want to make sure that we expunge the arrest records for anyone who has served time for possession of that substance in the state of Texas as well. We have been literally to every single part of the state, every single part of Bexar County so far over the course of the last year. And for those who were with us from the very beginning in 2017, over the course of the last 5 years. These are values that are shared not just among Democrats, not just among Republicans, but all of us as Texans in the biggest of cities, in the most rural communities. No matter how blue, how red, there's more that unites us right now than would otherwise divide us. And when we get past those who want to define us based on our differences, who we're supposed to hate or be afraid of next, and find a way to come together to do the big things, there will be no stopping the people of Texas. Are you ready for this future? Well, let's get after it. We're going to hang out for a little while to say hello and to thank everybody who came out. This will be one of the last times we get to be here in San Antonio before this election is decided on Tuesday. So we want to end with a message of Thanksgiving. You all have been amazing every single day of this race. I cannot thank you enough for knocking on the doors, for reaching out to friends and family, for voting, for believing, having faith, and putting the action behind it to make sure that we come through. A hope that is not a false hope. A hope that we realize together when we win this on Tuesday. Let's go out there and do this. Let's go. Thank you all very much. All right, Cynthia says we're going to do some pictures.